Well, hello there, all you amazing people. We are going to talk a little bit about this little machine up here, which is a oldish machine that I had a failed experiment with. I was tinkling it and probing it and doing all kind of crazy shit. Before we go into that, comment, like, subscribe, go onto my Discord if you want to have any videos you want to make, or want to have it. If you want to have any subtext. If you have any subjects you want me to talk about, there's a video suggestion section there, and you can go in there and you can post it there. A little bit of his history here. I needed a really simple computer to do light development on. And I was thinking about using my gaming rig. I kind of don't like this whole idea that you're also developing on the machine that you're gaming on, that you're also doing online banking and blah blah, all of these other things. I kind of like having personal stuff separated with work. And for the longest time I was doing Windows in a virtual machine and doing, development there, but it's a little bit iffy, especially if you're connecting, let's say, USB devices like your phone. If you want to make an app for a phone or test an app on a phone, it gets a little bit tricky doing that via a virtual machine. So what I did, that's just, can I do this instead? Yeah, let's do this instead. I didn't want to buy a physical computer. I did want to buy a physical computer. Words, hard for a stupid man like me. I didn't want to buy like a small form factor computer, like a 1 liter computer like the Dell Minis or Lenovo Minis or whatever they're called, because I kind of want it to be also kind of portable, so I could take it with me to work if I wanted to showcase something at work and stuff like that. And also I bought this before I actually got a development laptop at work, or a laptop at work in general. So I kind of wanted to be something I could use both at home and then take it with me to work if I want to showcase the developer something, or I want to show the boss something and stuff like that. And I was searching. Lenovo is like the go-to thing. It's, I have we use Lenovo laptops almost exclusively at work. Love them. Have no problem with them. But I got a super good deal on this laptop. I saved about 25-30% buying it versus getting a Lenovo with the same specs and stuff like that. And I don't need a powerful computer for what I'm doing. I need 16 gig of RAM. It's just nice to have. I could do it with 8, but I need 16 gig of RAM. We have people, at this point, the main developer was developing on 4 gig RAM system. He was developing on 4 gigs of DDR4 RAM. So yeah, the whole RAM situation, a lot of people don't understand how much RAM you actually need. More is of course better, especially for development. So I was like, 16 is the sweet spot for someone like me that do a little bit of everything. Management, computer management, infrastructure, development, a little bit of everything. So 16 gig is okay for me. And I want a somewhat decent processor. And 8 Gen, 4 cores, 8 hyper-threading was fine. That was what my computer was a little bit newer gen, but it was kind of what my desktop computer had at the time. The spec of this laptop is actually the same specs that my current work laptop has. Work fine. Of course not fast, but it works fine. No issues running it or anything like that. I can do whatever I want. It just takes a little bit longer than if I had more speed and stuff like that. But I got this laptop, and I'm going into a little bit of history so you understand my dilemma with why I did what I did. So I got it, I installed Windows on, everything was handy dandy and blah 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 blah. Then I started to do more Mac things. And my Windows machine started to become more of just a content creation, live streaming, gaming computer. Everything is I live on Mac OS 90% of the time. It's only when I do these videos or live streaming, sometimes also editing, because it is faster to render a video. I do that on my gaming computer, but most of the time I'm either on my Mac Mini or MacBook Air or this laptop here. So it's like, you know what? I don't game that much anymore, and I'm starting to play World of Warcraft again. That works perfectly fine on Mac OS. So you know what? Let me install Linux on this little machine up here. Let me, give this little, I can give you a little tour around it here. You can see the connections and whatnot. Let me get Linux on this one here. I have a 1 terabyte system. I tried 10 distributions or something like that. And they all work to, some works better than others. Let me put it like that. Kubuntu didn't want to install right out of the bat. I don't know what it is, but I had to fiddle around with the bootloader installation method. It just didn't work out of the bat. Ubuntu worked out of the bat, so I worked with Ubuntu for a little while. But then the whole Chester thingy on the trackpad was a little bit... So, also Linux Mint. Actually, Linux Mint is the distribution I had on for the longest time. Because of another reason. When I was using Ubuntu, it was like, why is my fans kicking off when I'm watching YouTube videos? And it's like, oh, well, this old processor and Wayland don't talk well to each other when it comes to the internal GPU. So either you need like a pass-through bridge to Xorg, I have that installed also, or you need a system that runs Xorg, because if you do that, then, you know, it will encode with the iGPU. And I was like, don't everyone tell me that Linux is for old computers. Why does this not work? This is such an old computer that it should have no problems. That was an issue. So I went with Mint. Issue solved. And I got way more gestures with Linux Mint. Linux Mint do an amazing job with their Cinnamon desktop and the integration with the Xorg and stuff like that. Like I said, it's the Linux distribution I ran the most on this laptop. And if I am going back to Linux, because as you probably can see the title, I had to move back to Windows. But if I am going back to Linux, it's probably going to be Linux Mint, because out of the box, it gave me the best experience on this laptop. There's still some issues with it that I don't like. Scaling was a little bit, even though I don't use scaling, but hey, I want a 4K monitor at some point, so it's messing around with scaling on it, and Cinnamon and scaling, just like any GTK-based solution, and scaling is just like, forget about that. So I was doing a live stream earlier this week, and we were talking a little bit about OpenSUSE and Fedora. Like, you know what? Let me try Fedora. I haven't tried Fedora in a long while. And while I'm thinking about using Fedora, because this also have biometrics, you know, it has like biometrics, and I really missed biometrics. I didn't have to put in my fucking password all the time. It could just be like, bloop, and it would log in. Have not worked. So I installed, what is it called? Fedora. And using KDE, because I wanted to test KDE and the whole scanning thing. Now, the scanning thing worked, but the gesture things were still an issue. So I lost the amazing gestures that Linux Mint gave me, but Fedora gave me great scaling with Qt. It was like, oh, and you have to remember that the gesture thingy with the Linux Mint is because of the Cinnamon desktop. It's not built into Xorg, it's because of Cinnamon. So I was messing around with KDE to get some of the gestures to work and stuff like that, and scrolling was super... it was just a mess. I didn't test YouTube videos to see if the iGPU was recognized or something like that, or worked well enough. I didn't test that, because I got so angry that I was like, you know what? This old computer, with this old hardware, everything should just work. For all of the propaganda that people are telling about Linux, I don't care whose fault it is. It should just work. Because this is meant, or was meant, as being a work laptop. You know, I do work on. I don't want to sit and basically work on the computer to get it work and then lose a lot of features that is super nice to have if you're like gestures on a computer, not a computer, on a laptop is so convenient when you have a small screen. Being able to do a lot of gestures on the trackpad to switch workspaces, switch between open windows, and all of these kind of things. That's why macOS is putting a lot of effort into making it work. Their most best-selling product as a computer, so most best-selling computer product is laptops. So that's why they put a lot of R&D and a lot of work into making trackpads work really well with macOS. Windows the same. Windows know that the most sold computer, desktop, laptop is laptops. So Windows is super good with gestures and stuff like that. Like, it's almost on par with macOS nowadays. And when you have tried what you can do with the trackpad, on macOS and Windows, and you then go into Linux, you feel like you are like using a way older computer than you are. And then you have, I'm not joking here, I had to attach a mouse to get the right, workflow going with Linux. Could you set something up, build something, download something from GitHub, compile it, and add it in? Probably. I didn't spend like a week trying to make Linux into, a proper working OS for my laptop. I didn't want to do that because I went into this experiment thinking like a developer would, or thinking like a normal, everyday person would that needed a laptop for work. And it was so bad that even just doing documentation stuff like that started to become an issue, because you also use gestures, to zoom in and out and stuff like that. That with scaling I was surprised how good scaling was on KDE. I will say that. Scaling under KDE is like, if you need scaling, go with KDE, because the Qt library is amazing because it's basically built for mobiles and stuff like that. So they have put a lot of R&D and effort into scaling and stuff like that. I haven't used scaling every day yet on Linux, but my initial research shows that if you are going to use scaling, you don't want like 100, 150, 200. You want like incremental scaling, like you can with the Windows. KD is the way to go. It seems to be the way to go. It seems to be, when I just tried it on my 1440p monitor, just for fun, it seems to just work nicely. I don't know about performances and all that, but yeah. But I had another issue. You know, like I said before, the gestures didn't work, and the fucking biometric still didn't work. I was like, this is Fedora. It's one of probably the second most used distribution on Earth, and a simple thing like biometrics don't work out of the box. And then I remembered, it didn't work out of the box with Ubuntu either. What the fuck is going on? And I know that this biometric is the same, or kind of the same biometrics that is used on Lenovo's and stuff like that. I don't think there's any specifically proprietary whatever to this Dell laptop. We also have to remember Dell Latitude is, besides Lenovo laptops, is the most popular laptops. So we have, I think it's HP Envy or what they're called. So there's the Lenovo's T series, and then there's Dell Latitudes, and then there's the HP whatever they're called. Those are the top 3 most sold laptops on Earth. Of course, Lenovo being like probably the, booting everyone out of the fucking sands and Earth and stuff like that, and sending them to Mars and make them cry because their little egos have been hurt. They're just a tiny little puny laptop company. But Dell Latitude is seen everywhere. If you don't see a Lenovo, you see a Dell. And again, I don't care whose fault it is. As a consumer, we don't care whose fault it is that someone, switched the wrong switch and now they are burning Josephine's titties in the fucking toaster because of it. We don't care. We just want it to work. We can have this debate if is it Lenovo or Dell's for using a certain hardware type or trackpad or whatever it is, or is it the manufacturers of those components not open sourcing it, or is it Linux, the kernel developers or the distribution developers' fault? As a consumer, we don't care. We honestly don't care. What we do care about is, does it work? And no, it don't. And as much as I could get to work, I could get Linux like 80% to where Windows is with all the conveniences and stuff like that. This laptop also have Windows Hello if you want to get your fucking face plastered into it. I disabled that shit right away, but which of course don't work on any Linux distribution, which is a lot of people at work use. They love using their face because they're used to it with their smartphones. And it is fast and it is great, even on this old laptop. The same with the biometrics. I use biometrics on my Lenovo laptop at work, my good old fat fingers. It's just a good, convenient thing to have. Is it needed? No. But when it's there, I kind of want to use it. You get what I'm coming at here? I don't buy or bought this laptop and be like, I only want to use 80% of the features. And I only want to have the battery life is another issue. And I also only want 80% of the battery life that I could get out of it. That's not why you buy stuff. You don't buy something and say, you know what, this is a fucking amazing machine, but I only want to utilize 80% of what it can do. So I can say I run this thing or do this thing. That kind of, again, made me like, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of getting this to work. I'm trying to finding a distribution, then this work, but this thing don't work. And crisscrossing, downloading, setting up, and I'm like, I just want a machine I could do Python, maybe C++, Rust development on for fun. Maybe we'll fucking dabble in Flutter a little bit or that. I don't want to sit and do all this just to get it up and starting. I just want to install the OS and then start to work. And I also tried elementary OS. I was even debating trying Sobian, to be honest. I just came to the conclusion that Linux on laptops sucks. It sucks more balls than the cheapest hooker you can find on your local fucking street corner. It's so bad. Don't get me wrong, can you use Linux on a laptop? Yes. If you get a purposely built Linux laptop, will Linux be great for that? Yes. But you are losing out on so many features that Windows users and Mac users have. And to me, that's stupid. Why would you live in or have an experience from a world that is 10 years plus behind when the hardware you have is capable so much more? And now I'm thinking about it. I don't think any Linux laptops comes with like biometrics or face unlocking capabilities. Probably because it won't work. The facial thing I can forgive. I think that's a Microsoft thing. But at least the biometrics, Lenovo have had this for like 20 years now or something like that. And I do think that some Lenovo's works under Linux with the biometrics. I've seen something like that. Or at least you can hack your way into it or something like that. I'm not saying you can't get it to work. What I am saying is that the fact that it's not just working out of the box on a, like, I think this computer is from 2018, 19, so 5-6 year old computer now or thereabouts. That's the target fucking audience for Linux. This computer, that was also why I bought it, because this computer in the Reddit of the good old Linux users is like the prime target for this. Is like what you would install Linux on to keep using it. Don't get me wrong, Windows 11 runs perfect on this machine. No issues with it. Like, Windows 11 runs amazing. Like I said, I use Windows 11 on a same spec computer at work. And that's kind of the thing that I'm coming at here, is that I am running Windows on this spec of a computer at work, and I know what this spec of a computer is capable of with gestures, and it even has the little nipple. This, I don't know if you can see, you can probably not see that here, but just like a Lenovo. So I know what to expect if everything just works together, hardware and software works together amazingly. When I use Linux on it, especially Linux Mint, I got 80% there. Like, I was like, I don't mind too much putting in the password, but you know, then there was the battery life and blah, blah, blah. There's all these little other irritations. And that's the thing with Linux I've noticed a lot, especially on laptops and stuff like that. It's not one big thing where you say like, if only this thing, and then, no, it's all these small little irritations that adds up to just an overall lesser experience. And I know what a lot of people say, oh, you should use Linux because of freedom. I don't care. Nobody cares. I am as free on my laptop running Windows and Linux as I am on the Windows. It's not like I'm getting locked in my room when I use Windows and Bill Gates is standing outside with his minions and like telling me what to do. And the second I install Linux, he's running away, and now I can run around naked and swing my ding dong all over the place. I can do whatever I want on this piece of hardware. Windows is not locking me down or telling me not to do anything. Linux is not locking me down and telling me to do anything. I can do whatever I want. Well, I can't use a lot of software out of the box, or software hardware capabilities out of the box on Linux. Some may not even work at all. So you could say that Linux is limiting me of my freedom to do whatever I want, because some things just don't work, or I don't have the same battery life and stuff like that. But the whole thing about, you know, your freedom to choose and owning your hardware, I'm still waiting for Bill Gates' minions to come and knock me in the head for installing Linux on this machine. I've not seen him. It's like, I need my hardware back. You know, like, I have not seen Nvidia, Intel coming at me and be like, you can't install Linux. We don't allow it. We give us our CPU back, or graphic card back. I've not seen that happening yet. In my 26-7 years of using Linux and 30 plus years using Windows, I've not seen any companies restricting my freedom to do whatever the fuck I want on any system, any OS, or any hardware. They do make it hard sometimes. But if you know how to, you know, cheat the system a little bit, so to speak, or push the right buttons, you can do a lot of things even though they don't want you to do it. So this whole freedom and own your hardware, and being able to look at this is not another thing. But yeah, but on Linux you can see the source code. That's great. But I'm not going to look at like I'm not going to fix the trackpad issues with Ubuntu. I'm not going to fix, you know, the lack of support for the biometrics in the Linux kernel. I don't have the time to sit and learn that and do that. Like 99% of users, we are not getting paid to do that. So we rather work on something we get paid for. I'm sorry to say it, but that's how the world works. Unless it's something that is directly benefiting us here now, and or we get paid for, we're not going to do it. And you say, like, Kent, but you just said that if it's benefiting you, you will do it. Yeah, okay. So I had to spend hours and hours and hours getting a biometrics or whatever to work under Linux with C, C++, or I could just install Windows that takes like a fraction of that time. What do you think most people are going to do? They're going with the path of least resistance. And I know there are people out there that are perfectly fine running a laptop in the state that, with not being able to do biometrics, or hello not working, or trackpad gestures not being that good. There is probably thousands of people that are willing to do that. That's cool. That's amazing. But for every one of you that are willing to sacrifice, or you can say you run Haiku, Linux, whatever you're running, FreeBSD for that matter, there are thousands of people where that's too much of an inconvenience when they know they can get a better experience just by installing Windows. And they don't care about their data being tracked or taken and all that fucking shit, because they know the second they go on to any site where they have to sign up, their data is being taken and tracked anyway. Is that something we should do something about and have a debate about? It is. And more people should give a fuck about it. The sad reality is they don't. They are like how I am with this computer, like the experiment I did with this computer. What if I'm just a normal average Joe that just wanted to install an OS and have the same experience with the same features? And a lot of people say, oh, you want it to be Windows. No, I don't want Linux to be Windows. I want Linux to give me the same features as Windows with my hardware. That don't mean I want it to be Windows. Because if I want it to be Windows, I will stick with Windows. But I do expect my biometrics working. That's not making it want to be Windows. I do expect it to have gestures, proper gestures. Again, that's not wanting it to be Windows. If I want it to be Windows, I want to look and feel and function like Windows and be able to install exe files, blah, 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 natively on it. That makes it want to be Windows. No, I expect to be able to use the same features my hardware have. That don't mean I wanted it to be Windows. Get that out of your skull, because I'm tired of people saying that. And that's the problem I have with Linux, is that it's always that 80%. You're 80% there. You're 90% there. Especially on laptops. Had this been a physical, it's a physical computer, but a desktop, I would probably not have that big of an issue, because who is using a trackpad, and biometrics and stuff like that on a desktop? Almost nobody is, unless you're a Mac user, of course. If I had installed any of those distributions on my gaming computer, which I'm thinking about doing, by the way, now that I have Windows on this one here, so I can just do all my Windows thing, and the games that I play, I could play them either on the Proton or on the Mac OS. So I'm thinking about doing that, to be honest. But the thing is, I just liked having Linux on my laptop. It was neat to lay in bed and, nerding out in terminals and configuration stuff and poking in the, the back end of Linux. I like doing that. There was too many sacrifices. And for some people, those sacrifices migrate all to the desktop, where they're sacrificing too much just to run Linux. So Linux on laptops, unless it's a purposely built laptop and your Windows not have the same feature set that a lot of modern laptops have, sucks. It really does. Do I like the look and feel of Linux better than Windows? Yes. Do I like KDE, GNOME, XFCE, Cinnamon better than the Windows UI? Yes. Do I like just having Linux better on my laptop than Windows? Yes. But do I want to sacrifice a lot of conveniences and battery life for that? No. And it could just be this specific laptop. I have not tried like 10,000 different laptops. But at least on this laptop here, the Windows is the best OS, which I really don't like. And like I said, I tried for a few months now all kind of Linux distributions. And I wish I didn't have to install Windows on it, because I like having a physical Linux machine. I've had it for 20 plus years. Are we asking too much of the computing elites that is Linux users and Linux developers? I don't know. I honestly don't think it's too much to ask. And again, we can have a video debate. I can make a video where we can debate whose fault it is and why. That's not this video. So keep that out of the comment sections, please. See you all later. Bye-bye.